Up until last year when I picked up the MMO, I'd never actually played a Final Fantasy game. I mean, sure, I've scratched the surface of 6 and 10, but I've never actually owned one of these games, nor played them to completion. I can't really tell you why either. I guess I was just never much of a PlayStation kid growing up, and most of the more popular games in the series were before my time. But I think the main reason just comes down to why I play RPGs. I was spoiled on games like Knights of the Old Republic, games that let me tell my own story and make my own decisions. So the idea of playing as some pre-made Bishi boy just never really appealed to me. That being said, one of my first memories is of Final Fantasy VII. I must have been a toddler at the time, but I was over my sister's friend's house for some reason. Her older brother was playing this strange game and describing it to me in detail. The whole thing carried this weight behind it, like I was looking through a window into a world much bigger than myself. I remember him talking about this huge world, about this dire quest to save the planet. I remember looking at Barrett's Gatling gun arm in confusion, having no concept of steampunk or science fantasy. In my young mind, this game transcended genre. It was something else entirely. So given my current taste in video games, you might say that FF7 is the most influential game I've never played. 2 minutes watching this game as a toddler permanently changed my taste in fantasy. So if I was ever going to play this game, I'd want to relive that feeling of shock and amazement. I'm not pining for nostalgia here, I want to experience something new. So while some of you may deride me for ignoring the original game, I'm glad I waited until the remake came out. So yeah, I played the demo. Did it live up to my expectations? Yeah, little bit. Playing this demo is the closest I've ever gotten to understanding the appeal of this franchise. If the way I felt playing this remake was anywhere near how people felt playing the original, then this series has made a believer out of me. The demo only lasted 45 minutes, but I immediately wanted more. I've been replaying it over and over. Did I have problems with it? Sure, but most of them come down to this being a demo as opposed to the full release. I found myself begging for more content, more context, and more places to explore. So let's dive right in. Hey guys, Trip here, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts on FF7 from start to finish, starting with the demo. I did my best to go in completely blind to give you the perspective of someone who knows nothing about this game. That being said, I have picked up a few story beats over the years, so I might spoil some things accidentally. Be warned. But if you've ever wondered what it feels like to play this game with minimal knowledge of the original, then this is the video for you. This isn't meant to be accurate or objective. Think of this as Final Fantasy VII, from a noob's perspective. So we start the game with this lady who I'm pretty sure is Aerith. She seems to be some kind of flower girl, but apparently nobody gives a shit about her flowers, so she's having kind of a bad day. It's such a simple scene, and there's not much content here, but through a combination of visuals, emotion, and especially the music, I'm immediately drawn in. This whole scene is giving me classic Disney vibes. You really get a sense that you're witnessing something significant, something magical, and it's just some lady picking up a flower. This is also when we get this incredible shot of the game's setting, Midgar. So far, this world is right up my alley, but we'll talk more about that later. For now, we're introduced to our Bishi boy for the evening, Cloud. As far as I can tell, Cloud is an ex-soldier, which is in all caps for some reason. They seem to be some kind of elite security guard. Apparently Cloud had a falling out with his bosses, so now he works as a mercenary. I like Cloud. He feels like a moody teenager who's trying really hard to be cool and only partially succeeding. It's kind of adorable. He seems to have some kind of dark backstory, and I'm sure he has his reasons for being so... But honestly, I just kind of find him dorky, and I kind of love it. But anyway, Cloud's here on a job. He was hired by some eco-terrorists to blow up a power plant owned by his former employers. The company's called Shinra, and they seem to run pretty much everything in the city. The eco-terrorists are convinced that Shinra's power plants are draining the life force of the planet, and they're determined to put a stop to it by any means necessary. Since only one of them can actually fight for shit, they're using me as a meat shield. I don't mind. Cloud doesn't seem to care either way, but if these guys are right and the planet is literally being drained of its life force, then that kind of sounds like a problem that takes priority over everything else. Now, of course, that's assuming they're right. I mean, sure, this is happening in real life, but this is a fantasy world. I don't know how science works here. How do I know these guys aren't crazy? Remember that scene in The Matrix where a guy swallows a pill from a stranger in a trench coat? As a kid, I always wondered how things would turn out if they really were just a crazy cult of terrorists like the Fed said they were. I'll let you think about that. So anyway, Cloud brutally murders some salarymen, and we begin to explore the area. This was the moment the game sold me. We seem to be at some sort of public train station, which kind of makes me wonder why those guards shot at me, but I'm sure they had their reasons. But seriously, this environment is incredible. We seem to be in some sort of cyberpunk world, but it also feels weirdly modern. Everything looks so lived in, so grounded, yet fantastical. Just like when I was a kid, this really does feel like I'm looking through a window into another world. The moment I walked through a turnstile with a giant anime sword on my back, I knew this game was for me. Now, the only thing I love more than cyberpunk is science fantasy, so once I lobbed a fireball at a cop, I was officially hooked. Between the modern culture, the magic, the cyberpunk setting, and the comically evil corporation, I'm getting some Oddworld vibes from all this. That's a good thing. And that's all the atmosphere we're going to get in this demo. From here on out, it's just dark industrial hallways. I honestly don't hold this against the game itself. I'm assuming this is an iconic quest from the original game, so they chose it for the nostalgia factor. But for newcomers, it's a pretty dull setting, especially after that incredible opening. I want to see more of the city. I want to read more silly ads. I want to see more NPCs. I really want to soak in the culture of this world. But this is definitely a combat-focused demo, and there's nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about the combat. This is an action RPG, with an emphasis on the RPG. The combat is in real time, but you can slow things down at any point to plan out strategies, use items, or cast spells, kind of like a turn-based game. Now, I know some hardcore fans are disappointed by the combat, but I'm coming from a place of heavy bias here. I much prefer real-time combat to turn-based. This just comes down to my priorities as a gamer. I play games to explore other worlds, so anything that breaks my suspension of disbelief distracts from that goal. When I'm in combat, I want to feel like I'm in combat, not like I'm waiting patiently for someone to punch me in the fucking face. Now, if a game has an incredible atmosphere, a gripping story, and incredible gameplay, sure, I'll tolerate a turn-based combat system, but it's never going to be my preference. That being said, I still appreciate the sense of strategy that comes with turn-based games, and I really think FF7 provides the best of both worlds. The gameplay loop goes a bit like this: strike, dodge, and block to your heart's content. Fighting enemies builds up meter. You spend meter on things like spells, special attacks, or the ability to use items. This gives the combat a consistent pace, almost like you're inhaling and exhaling. It feels good. Something about needing to build that meter really reminds me of the kind of tension you can only find in turn-based games. Once you get into the flow of combat, having low meter really fills the role of being in your off turn, and once you fill up that bar, you feel like you're taking back control. The special attacks are insanely strong in this game. A fireball can one-shot most trash mobs. It honestly feels like the regular attacks are there to placate normies like me who want to rush in and bash things, while still placing the emphasis on the tactical use of spells, items, and abilities. Now, I do wish the dodging, deflecting, and style switching were a bit more responsive, but I'm just nitpicking now. On paper, this system easily could have been a clunky mess, but in practice, it just feels good. Sure, it's not going to satisfy everyone, but I definitely think this system bridges the divide between fans of turn-based and real-time combat. I want to see this system in more games. One thing I really like is just how different the characters feel. Oftentimes in RPGs, I feel like the characters are just swapping stats and gear around, but the two characters you control in the demo almost feel like they belong in different games. Their weapons are completely different, and they each have unique mechanics that really flesh out their playstyles. Cloud is a tanky blade master with limited but extremely powerful magic. He can switch between two fighting styles, one that focuses on speed and agility, and one that focuses on brute force. Quick side note, good God does it feel good to swing this sword around. I've often wondered what it would be like to wield an absurdly heavy weapon with an absurdly strong character. I always assumed you couldn't properly express the weight of a weapon without making it swing slowly, but somehow Cloud is able to wield this monster cock of a blade like it's a twig. It really feels like every swing would bisect a normal human, if not make them explode from the sheer force. But considering this is a world where security guards can survive a Gatling gun to the face, I can believe it takes a few sword strikes to take them down. Barret, on the other hand, is a walking turret with lightning and healing magic. It's a pretty weird combination, and not a playstyle I expected to like as much as I did. Once you get into the flow of switching between Cloud and Barret, the brilliance of this combat system really starts to sink in. But wait, let's back up, because he's not even in our party yet. Not officially anyway. Cloud is still the meat shield, and a pretty unappreciated one at that. Right from the get-go, it's clear that Cloud's the outsider here. All these other people act like they've known each other for years, and they're all determined to take down Shinra. So who are these guys? Well, first off, there's Biggs, who seems to be the hacker of the group. Seems like a pretty nice guy, but he doesn't get a lot of screen time in the demo. Then there's Wedge. If this were a tabletop game, he'd probably be an envoy. He doesn't seem that great at most things, but he's pretty much the morale officer. He's just here to encourage his friends. I'd probably be like Wedge if I lived in this world. And then there's Jessie. She wants to eat Cloud's penis.
He's got balls, this, what was his name again?
But then there's Barret. And good God, is he my favorite character in this demo. Now, I know I said I'd be like Wedge if I lived in this universe, but that's assuming I take my current level of competence into the world of FF7. Now, if I was fucking jacked, I'd be exactly like Barret.
Yeah. Should have asked for more money.
This guy is manic, goofy, and loves the sound of his own voice, but he's so damn set in his convictions that you can't help but love it. He's constantly giving lofty speeches, he constantly chides Cloud for being a corporate drone, he seems equal parts childish and intelligent. Barret is constantly running at 100%. The man has zero chill. Anyone who knows me in real life will probably see some parallels here. But more than me, Barret is a lot like my grandpa, which is probably why I like him so much. He's just this gigantic, old-school black dude who traded in his Black Panther hat for a flower crown. I'm into it. Speaking of lofty speeches, we now come to my favorite scene in the demo. Barret explains his motivation for blowing up the reactor, which leads to this exchange.
You gonna stand there and pretend you can't hear the planet crying out in pain? I know you can!
You really hear that?
Damn straight I do!
Get help.
Say that again!
I cannot wait to see these characters play off each other. If the story is full of moments like this, then this is Game of the Year material for me. So Barret joins the fight and we make our way down to the reactor room. The rest of the demo is pretty combat heavy, leading up to a final boss. I guess now's a good time to talk about the music. What can I even say? The music in this demo is a work of expert craftsmanship. I said earlier that the game gives me Disney vibes, and most of that comes down to the sheer power of the music. That's not to say these tracks sound like they belong in a Disney flick, but they carry a similar sense of whimsy, mystery, and emotional weight behind them. In every scene, in every battle, the music reminds you that this isn't just a game, it's a phenomenon. What you are doing in this moment is the product of decades of hard work and passion, and you can hear the creators pouring their hearts out in every note. So Cloud and Barrett make it to the reactor room, and wouldn't you know it, we get to place the bomb ourselves. Are you kids ready for some terrorism? Let's burn this shit down. By the way, I still don't know what happens if you pick 30 minutes instead of 20. I just can't bring myself to pick the easy option here. I don't want to disappoint my grandpa. But before we can start the fireworks, we're faced with the final boss of the demo. This fight is pretty straightforward, though I do get my ass beat a few times because I suck at dodging. It's worth noting that the footage you're watching was recorded mere minutes after I streamed Sekiro, so I had to adjust a bit. But aside from my failures, this is a pretty cool fight. You really need to make strategic use of Barrett here, pay attention to the enemy's weaknesses, and adapt to the various phases of the battle. So, we beat the boss and the bomb is armed. It's time to get out of here. Unfortunately, the boss did a number on the place, so the room is falling apart around us. The rest of the demo is a race against the clock to escape the power plant. We run into some tough enemies, but all in all, those 20 minutes are pretty generous. And this is more or less the end of the demo. It's all cutscenes from here on out. We escape the facility and live to fight another day. But it turns out Shinra is even more cartoonishly evil than I thought. You see, our bomb was pretty tame, all things considered. Don't get me wrong, we definitely killed some civilians back there. I mean, what, do you think everyone on the Death Star was a combatant? But in order to properly villainize us, the company causes a complete meltdown, which sends shockwaves and shrapnel flying through the city. And then, just when things are really getting interesting, it's over. We get a brief trailer, and then we're told to buy the game. I don't know about you, but that was the fastest 45 minutes of my entire life. This is normally the part of the video where I go on a rant about everything I experienced and how it relates to the industry as a whole. But honestly, I don't know what else to say. I went in expecting to be disappointed. This game has been hyped up for my entire life, so I just kind of accepted there was no way it could live up to my expectations. And yet, here we are. As of recording this, the game comes out tomorrow, and you can bet your ass I'm making a follow-up to this video on the full release. If I can figure out how to properly do it from my console, I'll also be streaming the game on twitch.tv/psychotripstreams. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed taking this little journey with me as I discovered this game for the first time. Stay tuned for the follow-up video. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, Trip here. If you liked that video, why not watch some more? Hit that like button and make sure to share this video on Reddit and social media. I've also been streaming pretty regularly, so if you want to hang out with me and my friends, check me out on twitch.tv/psychotripstreams. If you want more Psychotrip, check out my Patreon. There you'll find all of my videos, as well as articles I've written for Comicsverse. If you like what you see, think about donating $1 or $2. I promise, I won't use that money to become a corporate oligarch. You can trust me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.